Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, Peter. Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Episode number 186.
Oh, there we go.
Real estate due diligence. When and how. Just if.
That's a big word, Bill.
If.
That's a big word.
You are anything like me, God rest your soul. No, that's not what it says.
We already know that part.
Yeah. My mother started me when I was about 9 telling me how unique I was. And she still hasn't stopped.
That's a polite word for other things.
Yeah, she says I'm arrogant, I'm pompous, she uses words like that for me. And I'm like,
that's nice she
Mom,
knows those words.
Why don't you just say that those words are synonymous with confident?
Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't like that part. If you are anything like me, when I first started, you will look at real estate deals while having that little devil sitting on your shoulder asking, how much could this set me back? And if I've been saying, and I would say, give that again. So I was looking at your face. I was wondering if you thought that. Yeah, I got distracted by looking at you.
I'm trying to sit still here so we can concentrate.
You will look at real estate deals while having that little devil sitting on your shoulder asking, how much could this set me back? And I've been saving for a rainy day. Should I use this money I worked so hard to save on this deal? Also, if it doesn't work, can I afford the installments? I know if I was to make a big, let's say that again. I know if I was going to make it big, I need an attitude like money is no object. Like the guys with deep pockets. But I wasn't that guy with the deep pockets. So it left me with the dilemma of what are the right decisions and what are the wrong decisions. I knew real estate had huge returns, but I also knew I could make the wrong decisions and it would cost me everything. Plus, more, if I was not careful, if my intentions are to increase my income, or your intentions are to increase your income or wealth, using real estate without jeopardizing you and your family's needs, this podcast is a perfect way to spend the next 60 minutes. Once you hear how safe my due diligence process is, you too will get out there and start kicking the dust around in the real estate arena. Whoa. So I was having a little trouble reading it because I kind of wanted to just ad-lib it, the way I was thinking it instead of reading the words. But if I do that, then I'll start adding stuff and we'll make the whole podcast just on the intro.
On the first page.
Yeah.
The end, thank you very much.
First, Peter, we got to pull a Bill and Pete show here.
Yeah, go.
What do we got to do? We got to decide what's the definition of due diligence. What does it mean? We got to do that, right? Because
it's funny.
Why we do that all the time? If we didn't do that, we'd probably get support tickets. Why didn't you do that,
Bill? I heard somebody on the meetups say something. I have to do diligence, and he was spelling it D-O, diligence. So some people don't know at all, not even the definition, but it's D-U-E.
What does that mean? We should look that up.
Yeah.
Could you look that up for me, please? D-U-E, definition of?
That's like, hey, your rent is due.
No, it's not D-O. It's D-U-E. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, no, they don't. They hear it. They don't read it. They hear it. Due diligence. I got to do some diligence here.
Right.
But you have to do the due diligence.
As an adjective, a noun, or an
I don't know.
Try adjective.
Expected at or planned for a certain time.
So she says due means as an adjective expected at or planned for a certain time.
Or of the proper quality or extent.
Of the proper quality or extent. Adequate.
We can double check that by doing due diligence.
I think it's adequate. It means adequate. Okay, because when I look it up as due diligence, as what is the word I want?
It's a little phrase.
Yeah, but what am I thinking?
Is it like
when I put two words together and it means something different?
Oh, like an idiom?
Idiom. Yeah, that's it. Like an idiom.
Reasonable steps taken by a person.
I have the due diligence.
Oh.
Yeah, I have that one. Okay, so I didn't look up due. I didn't break it apart. So I looked up just due diligence, just make sure I had it right. And the definition of that is, it's actually a legal term for doing your homework before committing to something.
Yeah.
Right. So due diligence, DUE-DILIGENCE, due diligence, is a legal term. It's like an idiom, if you would. Right, in the legal world, for doing your homework before committing to something.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense, because you can embark on some kind of project, even just buying a house for yourself or anything like that.
Right. So
a car, you want to we call it research, or in a sense that you're doing research to get a bunch of things sorted out, figured out, bills, expenses, possibilities, what's going to happen.
So I have next, like, what kind of homework do you do? But before we do that, I'd like to just go off script a little bit, because the confusion that most have, okay, is that, well, let's talk about this for a second. So what did I say? It's a legal term, right? So who uses this the most? If it's a legal term, then who uses it?
Lawyers.
Right. So when would a lawyer do due diligence?
I'm not sure what kind of due diligence he do. Oh.
When would he suggest you do due diligence?
Before a closing?
Right. After you did what?
Make an offer on something?
Which is done with?
A letter of intent.
Or
a purchase and sales agreement.
So it's something that's written and signed. So in the legal world, it would be like either a letter of intent is not so harsh, but if it's most known in the legal world as you signed a purchase and sales contract. Now you have 30 to 45 days to do your homework to make sure you want to close.
Right. And if things are not as represented, you have a way out.
Right. Or if the due diligence shows something that may have not been known even by the owner or the seller.
Yeah, it's not that they're trying to be sneaky, but something is there.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been houses like septic systems don't pass. They don't know that because they're using it and it works fine, but the leaching fields are like not working and they're like blah, 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 and then it's not going to last another 2 years.
Yep.
Right? Or the house that we're selling right now, we did our due diligence to find out that there was now this is 2019 when we bought the house. We're in 2020 now, but 2019 we bought the house. In 2013 or 16 or something, or I think, no, 13 or 15, 2013 or 15, the courts did a foreclosure and did the paperwork wrong.
Yeah.
So our due diligence found that. Okay. So here's the point that I want to make that I'm off track on here. Okay. This is a misnomer. Because most people think that's when you do your due diligence.
After the
So you have a legal contract. So if you use the word for its legal term, most people think that your due diligence is done after you sign a contract. What I'm proposing to you today is you don't use that word so harshly.
Yeah.
So you could have due diligence on where do you want to buy houses. Like, what area do I want to buy in? Right? You personally, which, by the way, You've just entered not Bill's planet, but you've entered Bill's head, which is a smaller planet. Well, we won't go there. I come up with an idea. Like one every 30 seconds sometimes.
How do you keep up with yourself?
I don't know.
How do you stand it? How do you sleep? How do you take a 15-minute nap in the afternoon?
I used to drink, but I don't do that anymore. So
unconsciousness doesn't work.
And to answer your question, the way I sleep and the way that I sleep, well, I sometimes take a nap in the afternoon sometimes, is I'm not sleeping. I tell my wife all the time, she's like, how do you go to bed and like, I'm so jealous, like within a minute or two, you're sleeping. I'm like, no, I'm not. She goes, yes, you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not sleeping.
Bill's working in his sleep.
She's like, but you close your eyes and go to sleep. I said, exactly, but I'm not. I didn't fall asleep. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, I passed out. I'm so freaking tired. I just passed out. Clunk. It's like, it's not like I remember falling asleep. It's like I'm awake and then I'm not. I sit down and have lunch and I'm awake and then I'm not. I just pass out.
Yeah.
Batteries, Energizer, batteries done.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
the point that I'm making is I have an idea and then I have to like do my homework. Like, I talked to this guy on the phone the other day. Do I want to call him back? Let's do diligence. And we're going to go over that now. So I just want you to understand that the word has been misused in the real estate industry to a point where people don't do it correctly. That's what I feel.
Well, I'm getting the idea from what you're saying that waiting until after you sign a contract and then starting due diligence, well, why would you go that far in the process?
Right.
Without having at least some good preliminary homework done to know if you even want to do it, not just for certain details, but for the bigger picture, like, do I want to be in that market?
That's right.
Why would you be in the wrong market and then go through the whole process, buy the house, and say, oh, I probably shouldn't have bought it here?
Right.
Duh. So from the very, very beginning, why don't you make the first step a smart step?
That's right.
Okay.
So,
in that case, I'm tracking with you.
It's good. So another good example, completely not related to real estate, like I used to do a lot of marketing and marketing consultant, so I'd go into like an acupuncture office or a chiropractor or a dentist, because those guys are always looking for those guys like me, right? Because they know how to fix teeth and crack backs and poke you with needles, but that's as far as they go. They're doctors, right?
Yeah.
They're not taught business in doctor school, right?
Right.
So they usually get out of the school, open a practice, and go, what do I do now? And then they hire people like me to consult them, right? So to your point, what you're saying, what I feel like due diligence is like nowadays, it's kind of like, oh, let's run a special. You know, I'll do an adjustment on somebody's back for $25. And that's the bright idea.
Yeah.
And then what they'll do is they'll do a blanket mailing around their zip code, like in their neighborhood, right? And then after they do the mailing, they do their due diligence and say, oh, we didn't get that many results. Marketing must not work. Instead of doing what I'm proposing, go find people that have sore backs and advertise to them. So in other words, instead of just mailing to the general public, go find the people that really would need your help. Right?
People that rake a lot of leaves.
Yeah, or whatever.
No, that was me a couple of days ago. Ouch!
Okay, so what kind of homework do we do in real estate, right?
Yep.
So I have some examples. It's not all of them, but like one is price, which is where most people get stuck. And I'm not talking about the price that you buy. I'm not talking about the price that you sell. I've talked about this in other podcasts where you want to find out what's the most that you could sell for. So when I go into an appointment, I want to know the highest number. Like the comps came out to be like 224. So I'll push it to 230 because that's the highest number I can go.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to know that number is because I can subtract a lot easier than I can add.
Well, yeah. Well, that's kind of how things work. Like how much came in the door and like how much went out the other end. And
no, what I'm talking about is when I'm in the house, if the house needs a kitchen, I could subtract it from the 230.
yeah.
Or if I drive the neighborhood and it's like, so it's now it's not 230, it's 219.
Yeah.
You know, so the point is it gives me a starting point in the race.
Sure.
Right? So I always want to know what the highest number is because I could get there and the house could be spectacular and have an additional 3-car garage and, an extra acre of land. And now I know that number is more sufficient because, and it sounds kind of weird to say this, but it took me a while to figure that out. It sounds stupid, but it took me a while to figure it out because what would happen is when I would run into those situations where the house is extraordinary, I'd have to be like, oh, I need to go do my homework.
Oh.
Right? Because I didn't know. So I just started getting that number first, and then, because once I'm in the house, I could manually, mathematically subtract. But if I didn't have that highest number when I was in the house, I'd have to go figure it out and then come back. And there's one thing you know about me is once I go to the house, one of two things is happening when I'm leaving. Either I'm leaving and we're farewell and I'm off in the sunset, or I'm doing a deal.
That's right.
That's the objective of me being in a house is which one are we going to do? This one or that one?
Yeah. It's not a yo-yo situation.
I don't like to leave. Correct. I don't like to leave and then say, oh, let me go figure it out and I'll call you in a few days.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that.
Yeah.
But that's just me. All right. So price is a big thing. Okay. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. So the other thing is the condition of the seller. Right. The other thing is condition of the property. All right. How about the condition of the market?
Sure.
And when I mean market, I mean the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Could be the market or it could be the city. We go through this with the apartments. It's like, what is management doing? AKA town representatives, the town council, the mayor, whatever you may have, right? What are they doing? Right? So,
is the area going to get better, or are they going to let it slide more?
Right.
Are they borrowing tons of money to solve problems, or really building the area to be more sustainable itself?
And at the end of the day, the fastest way to find this stuff out, the fastest way to find out what your town is doing, and you're going to be able to say this a lot better than I can because I know what to do. I'm just not sure the exact names. Well, so there's actually somebody in the town. I think it's economic development.
Yeah, the economic development department who is supposed to be working on developing the economy and pulling jobs in, making jobs more attractive to the area. Doing something about taxes so that it's better to be there, not worse to be there. Companies leaving, jobs leaving. Don't ruin the road so people can't get to the business area. Whatever.
Right. So paying attention to management's decision on are they trying to attract jobs or are they trying to repel jobs? And they won't see it that way. You'll have to figure that out. And then the next thing is if they are trying to attract jobs, are they, like you said, fixing the highways and the cities? And are they looking to put people indoors? Right? Because at the end of the day, how does a town get their money?
Taxes.
So property taxes is an important thing. So, so if there is somebody in the economic development department that is trying to cultivate the tax rate, like get more taxes because the city is like actually doing something, or bringing in jobs or, attracting other things. So that's, that's a market. Okay. So that's the condition of the market. What kind of market is it? Right. The other thing is condition of the terms. Right? Like we'll talk about that later. So and another one is what's my potential exit strategy? Right? So do I have one or do I have 5 exit strategies?
Yeah.
You know how I am. I like to buy, so it's like I can arbitrarily wake up one day and say, okay, Peter, here's what I've decided. A day or two later, a week later, sometimes a month later. It's like, here's what we're going to do with this house.
Yeah, it's great to have options of what to do. Keep it, sell it, lease it, all that stuff.
So all these are kind of like dancing around in your head once you've honed in on a property, right?
Yeah. But with you, it's like having a puzzle. And the puzzle you can turn them over too. Yeah. There's so many. I'm serious. There's so many options. You can turn them over. Like, oh, you're going to do that too? Like, wow, I didn't think of that one.
Okay, so if you don't understand something, what do you say?
Oh, like when you're with a person?
If you don't understand something, what do you say?
You say, I don't. What?
You say no. If you don't understand something, you say no.
Why?
What do you mean, why? So you're doing it right now. You don't understand. So you're like, no. You're rejecting it.
Oh, I see. In general, I mean, I usually ask. I don't understand. I try to figure it out. But if you don't understand, oh no, in general, people, when people don't understand something, they can't move forward, so they say no and go. Right. Is that what you mean?
So just in general, I mean, if somebody doesn't understand something, they reject it, they push it away, they say no. Yeah, it's like no. There's I don't know any other way, or it feels like fear. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand something, it'll feel like fear. Yeah. It's really a no, but it's technically a fear.
When you say, I think of it as like doubt. People aren't sure. They don't know what something means, which is kind of what you're saying. Understand? I think of it as
it's a no.
Doubt,
and doubt is a no.
Yeah, and it becomes can't do it. If you can't move forward, you got to go back.
So somebody that's in fear and in doubt, what do they not do?
Move forward.
Yeah, They don't proceed. Yeah, there is not a yes. Yep. It's always no. And they will find every excuse in the book to make themselves right that it's a no. Mm-hmm. Right? So, to me, fear equals too much due diligence. Mm. So, fear equals too much due diligence. So, you're doing too much homework.
Okay. Well, as a corollary, if somebody's doing a lot of due diligence, they're afraid. They're being way too careful.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So when I have coaching clients that are talking about becoming coaching clients, or I have a seller or a buyer that is like totally like barraging me with 100 questions, and they're trying to do their homework, that means means one of a couple things to me, but more than likely they have some misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. They haven't fully grasped all the words and the concepts. I might have used words they didn't understand, so they didn't see. That's what happens, right? So if you are listening to somebody to talk and you have a grasp of all the words, words make sentences make paragraphs make chapters, right? Every one of them is a concept. So a sentence is a concept. So when you put the words together at the end, at the period, you should have a concept. Mm-hmm. At the end of the paragraph, you should have a concept, aka mental image pictures. Yep. You should see it. Mm-hmm. It should paint a mental image picture for you, right? Yeah. So
not just words. You should kind of grasp it, like have a vision of it,
right?
And you should be able to envision it somewhat.
So if you don't have a picture or a concept, then there is something you didn't understand there, and it's usually a word or a symbol or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And it can't fully paint the picture. It's kind of like. Give me a famous artist, Rembrandt, I'm thinking, or Michelangelo.
Sure.
Did he do portraits?
He did really good ceilings.
Okay, so I don't know why you come up. You drive me crazy.
Well, he's famous.
I asked you a question. Did he do portraits? And you said he does ceilings. So you should have just said, I don't know.
I don't know. When you said that, I got a mental picture concept of a ceiling. It was on my mind.
Okay, so all I'm saying is if you had a painter like paint a picture of a person and left their face out, it would be an incomplete picture, right? Yeah. And so now you don't understand, which is why we're so weird about making sure you understand. The reason why is because that the face missing on a picture is kind of like a word. Yeah. Like we just did, like due diligence. If you didn't know what due diligence meant, we didn't explain it, you could get to the end of this podcast and be totally blank, not even know what we talked about. Right. You won't remember it. Right. Because you didn't put mental image pictures in there to look at later, to recall later. Mm-hmm. You'll just remember that you were foggy. Yep. So the mental image picture is a fogginess, right? And you won't be able to recall it and use it later. Yeah.
That's an important thing, like using it to do something useful.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so fear is too much due diligence. So trying to mock up everything possible, every scenario possible, every solution possible, just in case. Mm-hmm. Just in case. Mm. Because there's a misunderstanding there. Right? By the way, I just explained to you a lawyer.
Oh, jeez.
Okay? Always wondering how they would litigate if they do it, right?
One thing you said once about lawyers, it was really almost shocking to me. It's, you think you're hiring them to protect you, but they also have to really protect themselves.
Right.
So some of that fear comes that they don't get themselves personally in trouble.
Right.
That was kind of eye-opening.
Right.
To do things so that they don't get nervous, because they're not going to help you then.
Right.
But they're supposed to know and help you with all that stuff.
So here's the thing: is you know, first of all, you're going to a lawyer that hasn't done it. I mean, they do the legal paperwork, but that's it.
Oh.
So that's why I say most lawyers are fearful people, because they're afraid of the other shoe dropping. So if I were to write this contract, and I know this guy because I've been in their offices when they do it together, like 2 or 3 lawyers would be together,
yeah.
And I've had the honor, and it is an honor, of being behind those closed doors, you know, sorting out some things, or just being there waiting for a friend of mine to go have a cigar, and they're chatting amongst themselves, and I can hear them talking to one another, right? So when they draft like a lease, for example, you know, they would think, okay, so once they draft it, they then read it and say, okay, if I was to sue this person that had this lease, what would I do? Mm-hmm. And that's how they critique it.
They're looking for the cracks, the weak points,
right?
So they can bolster it up if they need.
So they're in constant fear that that's what's going to happen, because here's what lawyers do know and they don't say. If it's in writing, it's true. Mm-hmm. If it's in writing, you can go to court, you can get sued. They're very literal. Lawyers are an index of words. They're really good. They know what words mean. Lawyers have a good vocabulary. They know what the words mean.
Yeah.
Right? But that's all. They know what they mean. They're very literal. And sometimes it's kind of odd how they use their words.
Really?
Because they're literal. They don't take them into contents of common sense. And they don't allow for any variations. Yeah. Right? So now what happens is if you're like that, you go out and you think this is good. You know, most lawyers are, and I'm not saying it's not, but you think this is good, but you can't make decisions based on that. You know, it's kind of like this. It's like you have a 3-family house in Pawcatuck, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Right? And you're trying to sell me that house. And I look at all the legal documents and I pay attention to everything on paper, and I say, okay, I'll buy the house. But I never looked at the house. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Right? I never went out there like, is it a good neighborhood? Does it got rotted pipes? Does it even have windows in it?
Yeah.
I never looked at the house. Right? That's kind of like what happens when you're studying. Right? You study all the words, but if you never looked at the house, then how could you connect? How could you have an application if you haven't looked at the physical universe object?
No, it's too theoretical in that case.
Yeah. Right?
Too much in your head.
So now if you go off into the land of paralysis of analysis and overstudy all the potential scenarios just in case, you want to be safe, right? These are these people. You want to be safe or have a plan just in case this happens or it happens, right? In the meantime, while you're doing all that, right, you're overanalyzing and overthinking it, it slows you down to move forward.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Right? And someone like me comes in and swoops up and pulls a rug out from underneath your feet and gets the deal. Then you spend the next 95 years telling anyone who will listen about the deal you almost did.
The one that got away?
Yeah. Right? All right. So, how do you do this homework? Why, simultaneously being risk-free, or at least knowing how to manage this potential risk so you don't get taken out like our Navy did on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Right? That's a perfect, I mean, it's a disgusting way to do it, but what happened on Pearl Harbor, 1941? They weren't ready.
No.
They were taken out.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah.
So first, almost everyone I know, their best learning is by doing it. Right? Doing whatever they want to learn is the only real way to learn it. So if you are going to learn something, the only way you're going to really learn it is to do it. Okay? So I actually call this learning out loud. In fact, I wrote an email about it this morning. It was awesome. Right? In fact, if you're on my email list, it hasn't gone out yet. It will as soon as we get done with the show. You should look at it because I listed 8 or 10 ways about how you can learn out loud. Okay? And it's actually pretty clever. And I don't usually say that about my stuff, but this is clever because I thought about this.
Yeah. It's funny because some people don't think they can read and can only learn firsthand experience. But then if they don't have some basis of knowledge to look at things, they're kind of missing that too. So there's a proper balance somewhere in there.
Right. So just to not tease you. So like in the email, I was talking about learning out loud. So what if you had kids and they need to learn how to read? Well, give them your real estate materials and have them read your real estate materials.
Yeah.
Right? How about this one? You got elderly parents living in like some sort of an assisted living and you go to visit them.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you bring your real estate materials and start reading them your materials? They have nothing to do. They're interested in whatever you're interested in. So if you go there, notice that they'll complain about their aches and pains and how I'm so ill and I have to take 35 pills every 3 seconds. They'll complain about the nurse, right? They'll complain about the food, but that's because they have nothing else to talk about. Yeah. So what if you bought your real estate materials and you read to them and had them help you learn it and you talked about it like they you know? And if you don't have an elderly parent, go down to the local, like, you know, there's homes all over the place. Go make a friend.
Yeah.
Learn out loud. You know, those are just a couple of examples and I'm there. But here's the amazing thing is you'll make an appointment every week to go see that person now. And you'll actually do your study with them. Right? And you two-way communicate about whatever you're reading. And at the same time, you'll be spending time with a loved one that loves to spend time with you and talk about what you want to talk about. I mean, that's learning out loud. You're looking at me like I got 3 heads.
That's just really at the edge of the limb, but it's not untrue. Just,
why is it the edge of the limb?
Well, it's not the usual thing people do when they go to a nursing home and start reading contracts to them.
I'm not talking about reading contracts. Who said anything about contracts?
Well, I thought you were talking about reading.
They're materials, the real estate materials that they have to study to like learn how to do real estate.
Oh, okay. Just like the instructional stuff.
Buy one of my books, Ron LeGrand's book, whatever you're going to read.
I was thinking they were the person sales contract because they're hard to read. Okay.
No.
Yeah,
no, I'm talking about learning out loud.
Yeah.
Right? So you just whatever materials you want to read. I don't know, you want to read about how lease options are, then whatever.
Sure. That makes more sense now.
Yeah,
I was just thinking something else there.
Yeah. Okay. So my first gold nugget today, which is what I've talked about before, right? And I'm going to emphasize it today. I'm going to stick this one with a needle of what is the word I want? Steroids.
Oh, that kind of needle, like plunge it in there.
All right, here it is. Always do the next step in the deal. Sounds too simple. Okay? Don't jump ahead. That's the key. Don't jump ahead, because I always say do the next step in a deal. But I don't always put the tail end of it there. Don't jump ahead. That gets you in trouble every time. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead.
But the guy who's in fear is too worried to not jump ahead. That's the problem.
Okay.
So, but I watch you and I know how you operate, and I can say this, but tell me how you would handle this. The guy who's worried is worried that something will happen he won't know what to do. You have the confidence that you can figure it out and sort it out.
That's bullshit.
What?
Before we get done with this podcast, I'm going to handle that. That's absolute bullshit.
Yeah, because that's what people...
bullshit.
Well, that's what people run into.
That is bullshit.
What?
That what you just said is bullshit. Emma, erase that off the podcast. I don't want it to
They're not afraid what's going to happen?
That's bullshit. I'm not
saying it's right.
I'm going to handle that in a minute.
Yeah,
that's bullshit. You're lying to yourself.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
You're saying that I have plenty of confidence and I could do whatever, and whatever happens in a deal, I can handle it, and you don't.
No, I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying that's what people worry about. They don't think of that.
You just said you don't have that confidence, and they worry about it. What is worry? What is the definition of worry?
Not knowing what to do in the future, not knowing what the future holds.
Okay. So worry that's not what I have worry as. You're concerned about something. right?
But it's not something that hasn't happened yet. It might
So
happen.
what does worry get you
Nothing.
other than stress,
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you.
right? So worry does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets you stressful and stops you.
Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is people do that, don't they?
I'm going to handle it's, and I'm telling you, if they do, it's bullshit.
I know it's bullshit. I'm not saying it's good. I'm trying to point out that you handle that. You'll probably say it later, but it's just something I noticed that, and I'm working on that too. Because if something happens, there's a way to fix
the
it.
point of this entire podcast.
Yeah, because I've had to do that.
So
okay, keep going then.
I can't tell you how many times my personal coaching clients call me and tell me they have a motivated seller on the line, and they jump right into how they're going to do the deal, and then spend the money, like all in the same conversation
Before they have it.
They have what they consider a motivated seller.
Yeah, and they don't even have the money yet. And
I had a coaching
they're on
client the other day call me that and tell me I finally found a motivated seller. And then he recorded it because I got him recording some stuff. And then on the call, on our coaching call, I actually played the recording. It was a 23-minute recording or something like that. He was not a motivated seller. But my guy has not technically seen or heard one yet.
Yeah.
So he's guessing at what a motivated seller is. Okay? This is kind of like he has the picture painted, but he's missing the face. The picture's not complete. He's got pieces missing. Right? All right. So this is like trying to climb a 20-step staircase and taking one step from the bottom and going to the top. Right? You can't do it. Or if you can, you got to come up with unusual solutions and weird contraptions that not everybody could do. Right? Or how about this one? My grandson Max.
Yeah.
Okay? He's trying to learn how to do potty training. Right? So what if he tried to learn how to do potty training without diapers? What would happen?
A bit of a mess.
It would be literally a mess.
Yep.
Right? Just that's what it's like. So when you're learning, you have to do it in the right gradients and the right steps. Because if you don't, it's in Max's case, it's literally a mess. Crap all over the house. Right? Make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What I find is if I just focus on and do my next step in my head, it stays clear. Okay? And I make the right decision at the exact right time. So if I just focus on one thing, not the whole thing. So if I focus on how am I going to get my foot up to the first stair and get my body on the first stair, I use all my resources, all my faculties. I use whatever energy, whatever. It all gets focused into one thing. It's kind of like a magnifying glass under the sun. Right? If you just hold a magnifying glass up, it's not going to catch a piece of paper on fire. But if you focus it and get it to where it's just focused on a little tiny piece of paper, it will light it on fire.
Yeah, that pinpoint of light.
Right? So this is what it's like when you think. If you just pinpoint that one thing, your mind is designed to help make solutions.
Yeah.
Your mind is designed to help you get better, not worse. Your mind is designed to help you move forward, right?
Yep.
Not stop you, right? That's why your mind is designed, right? And when you do it this way, it drastically reduces error. Okay? Now, don't jump ahead. That's the trick. Don't jump ahead. That's the barrier that I run into. Don't jump ahead. That's the gold nugget that until you actually dissect this and look at where you're doing this in your life, because you're not doing this just with real estate, you're doing it other places.
Yeah.
Right? This is kind of like, I want to have a baby but never have sex. You know what I mean?
Oh, where's the fun in that?
Or this is kind of like, I'm hungry and I need to eat, but never going getting food.
Yeah.
I have a car but no gas. I mean, these examples. This is what it's like to me.
Yeah.
It's like when you jump ahead. These are like these examples, right? Do only the next step of the deal. Never worry about anything else. And I'm gonna give you an example of this, right? And most of the time, this is just common sense. If you just laser focus on the next step, you will figure out what to do. Okay? And by the way, if you don't get that next step, then that's the exact point that you spend your 5% education time on that we were talking about the last 3 episodes, right? Because it was 5% education. That's how you get educated. That's why I only say 5% of your time every week is on education, because once you start doing things, you're going to figure out, oh, I don't know that. There's a misunderstanding there. The face is missing out of the picture. I need to go find out why that is and study that one thing.
Yeah.
Not the whole picture. The picture's already painted. You already have it. You just need that one thing that stopped you from getting to the next step. And that could be done quickly. It doesn't need hours, 20, 30 hours a week to study.
Right.
Right? Now, does all this make sense?
Sure.
All right, good. Let's do a mock example of how this works.
Sure.
Okay? So, here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Number one, I find a deal that has a motivated seller and I want to push forward.
Right.
Okay, so I have a motivated seller and I want to push forward. Now, finding the motivated seller is a whole nother due diligence section, but let's just say I have a motivated seller and I want to push forward. So the next thing I'm going to do is, once I have that, I'm going to check the math. So that's the next step for me. This is how I would do it, okay? Now, this is not like steadfast or some rules. It's just how I would do it, okay? So I have a motivated seller. I talk to them. I've gotten some data that I feel like they're motivated.
Right.
So let's just say at this point I have a prospect-suspect form filled out. Let's just say that, okay?
Sure.
So first thing I want to do is I want to check the math. So is there sufficient spread in the equity? That's the first thing I'm going to look at. Right? Is there sufficient spread in the cash flow? In other words, the payments. Right? How much do I need to put down or put into the deal to upgrade the property or to buy a pretty house? How much do I have to put down? Is that sufficient to how much I think I could get from my buyer?
Right.
Like, if I'm going to do a pretty house and I got to put down $5,000, but it's a $100,000 house or a $130,000 house, I'm probably only going to get $5,000 from my buyer, or 6 or 7.
Right.
But is it sufficient for me?
You should do some cleanup and just some prep on the house, that kind of thing.
Who knows? Even if it was a totally stunning house and I got $7,000 from my buyer and had to give my seller $5,000, I means I made $2,000, right?
Yeah.
Is that sufficient for me?
Yeah.
And everybody will have different answers for this.
Sure.
But this is how I look at it, right? So basically what's happening is it comes down to money now, money monthly, money later, right?
Sure.
So when I'm looking at the deal, I look at, okay, so is there sufficient spread in the equity? It's kind of like doing the formula backwards, because it's like I'm going to look at the equity first, so money later is the equity.
Okay.
Right? Then I look at, okay, how much are my payments? How much do I have to pay? I might have a $200,000 house, right, that has a $3,000 monthly payment because they have some modification and they have like $30,000 worth of money that they're paying for in the modification, in the loan modification, because they're trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And it might only be there for a year or two, but they're trying to give you that payment.
That's after somebody falls behind in payments and have a modification.
They call the bank and they modify the loan.
They pay extra for a while to catch up.
So they might, it's not normal, but it happens.
Right.
Right? Sometimes they'll put them on a 12-month, some sort of a 12-month payment. Like, you owe $30,000, you got to pay us, instead of paying us $1,500, you got to pay $2,800.
Right.
Right, which is stupid, because like if they can't pay $1,500, why would they pay $2,800? But
yeah.
Welcome to the world of banks. Duh. Okay, so here's my point. If I look at the deal and the guy's willing to give me, $40,000 out of equity, I look at, okay, but I'm going to be negative cash flow for a year. See how it starts to work?
Sure. You jockey one against the other.
Because I'm looking at money monthly. I mean, money now, money monthly, money later. Right? So, so if it has $150,000 worth of equity, I might want to go negative cash flow for a year to get that much equity.
Yeah. Well, it's like money in the bank.
Right.
But it's in a house.
Right. Or I could pay for a couple months and then sell it and get the equity. Maybe I don't do a lease option strategy to sell. Maybe my strategy is, well, I've done that with subject to. We just did that with a house last year. We bought a house in Newington subject to. Means we took over the mortgage payment for like $94,000.
Yep. We
put in, I don't know, I forgot 30 or 40,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then we sold it. So the subject to deal, which is, it was stupid. We shouldn't have done that. We already talked about that. We should have just kept that house because it would have been more profitable. But the point is we made that decision when we made the decision, but it was all about the equity spread. We were doing this. This is doing your due diligence.
Right.
So
we'd have more than one option, but I like that one.
Right. We liked it because we got a chunk of dough, and you haven't gotten enough chunks of dough yet to get flat on it. So.
Yep.
So is there sufficient spread in the equity? Spread meaning the difference between what you can sell for and what you owe. What's the difference? The spread is, the equity is the profit.
Yeah.
Right? Is there sufficient spread in the payments? Can I cash flow every month?
Yeah.
And how much do I have to put in to get this deal? Right? Like in our particular case, we bought a $200,000, or we comped it for $180,000.
Yeah.
We took over a mortgage payment of $94,000, gave them $5,000 walk-in money, so we paid $99,000. I remember 97, but okay, $99,000, right? Then we put in 30,000 or 35,000 in a renovation. Okay, so in that particular case, how much do we have to put down?
The $5,000.
We needed the $40,000. $5,000 to give to the seller.
Yep. And the renovation money.
And then the renovation money. So,
but we didn't have to pay for the house because we were just paying the mortgage.
But this is my exact point. This is when you're looking at the math, these are the things that you look at. If you stick with money now, money monthly, money later, it'll help you evolve, just like the laser, the magnifying glass on the piece of paper. You're going to make it really honed down. So when you're thinking, where's my money now? Where's my money monthly? Where's my money later? Now, I want to make a point here. The point is that if you only have money now, like in a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer, where you're just taking a $3,000 fee, right, or a consulting fee or whatever you want to call it, right? If you're taking a $3,000 fee, it's okay, but doesn't mean you spend 3 months on that deal. The $3,000 measures how much time you're going to spend on this deal. Sure. Now, if you have a deal that you're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $75,000 on, you can afford to spend more time on that deal, which you'll have to because it's a little bit more of a hidden deal, right? It's a deal that nobody else found and you did, right? Because the further you go into the cracks and crevices, the more deals you'll find. If you're looking for deals just on the surface, like an ugly house in a pretty neighborhood, or you're just looking for out-of-area owners, it's when you get the unusual list or unusual places that nobody else is looking, that's when you start finding these big monster deals.
Does that include difficult deals?
Well, I'll give you an example. The house that we bought in Newington, you and I, one of the first houses we bought together, how did we find that house?
The first one was we went to one person's house to see if we could buy that one, and you asked for a referral. That one?
Right.
And then we got that off a referral.
So how many people were looking at that house? How much competition?
Nobody.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Nobody.
We were deep in the crevices because I was clever enough to say, do you know anybody else that have a house that would be interested in buying a house the way we just talked about? He's like, yeah, my friend around the corner.
It was crazy because you don't always ask. You should, but maybe half the time you forget to ask, and half the time you do. But always ask those things.
But that's what I'm talking about.
You just don't know.
That's the kind of stuff that happens. And if you continuously do stuff like that, you'll find these monster deals.
Yeah, and that the first house might not have been the best lead. It never turned out. We went back one more time later, and it was a lousy lead.
So we spent the money for the marketing. We didn't do anything with what the marketing did, but we ended up buying a house.
It worked.
because that's exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So now, does that make sense? So you do the math first. That's doing all the math stuff, right? Just an overview. All right. Now, I test the seller for what they're agreeable to with how they want to be either relieved of the house and the payments, or how would they be willing to accept their equity? Okay? So, it could be like, do you want all the money now? You know, the equity, do you want all the money now? Do you want, can you take some now, some later? Can you take a little bit now, a lot later? You know, so all those kind of scenarios. So there's something that, I just keep asking questions until I get a feel for where they're at.
Yeah, but you also find out what their situation is, why they're selling, and what problems they're trying to solve. If they're in some kind of situation, you can get an idea, like, oh, I need the money really bad to buy another house. So you can have an idea what they're trying to do and either figure out some way to do that, or pay it, or fund it, something. But you know what they're trying to do. So
I'm deviating at this point, but I want to explain something, because I explained it to you the other day, and you were like, "Wow, that's really good." Okay, and you don't. I mean, you tell me that, but it's not like every day you tell me that. I mean, when something's good, you're like, oh, "That was really good." So,
well, it strikes me. Yeah. If it strikes me, it's going to strike other people too. Okay, as a clear. I think I know what you mean. Like, go ahead. So, if you look at every owner of being in one or two buckets, usually we do prospect or suspect, which is true. But prior to that, if you really think about it, every owner that has a house, they own a house, right? Whether it's got a mortgage on it or not, they own the house. They have the deed in their name, right? Falls in one or two buckets. Either they look at the house or see the house or have the viewpoint of that house being an asset. In other words, they feel like there's a profit in it for them, right? They have equity, you know, or they are going to pay it down and create equity. Yep.
They take the house as an asset. What you have adroitly brought up before, some time ago, it's been a while since you talked about it, is some people have a house and it's a liability. So basically what happens is, that means the liability, not monetarily, not with money, mentally I'm talking about.
Yeah, in their lives. Well, I just quick. You think a house is, oh, I got a house. It's fabulous. I got a house. It's worth so much money. Yay. Then you have the guy like, I got this house. God damn it. Yeah. And it's just, it's such a problem because. And you wouldn't think that. You would think, oh, I got this house. But sometimes it's, I got this house. It's like, oh boy, or oh boy.
So I'm calling those second ones a liability. So basically what's happened is that person has an overwhelming problem that the house caused. And they can't get through it because it's overwhelmed them. For example, like a probate deal, mom and dad's been in the house 50, 60 years, and all of a sudden they're gone, and their 50 years worth of crap is in the house, and you got to go clean it out. And I have a girl I was just dealing with, her grandmother died, and I had 4 dumpsters worth of stuff in it, which was $3,000 to $5,000 to clean it out, that she didn't have the money. And probate court is like, she was made the person that's in charge of it, and court is hammering her like, when are you going to put the house up for sale? When are you going to put the house up for sale? When are you going to put the house up? And so she's got a judge and an attorney constantly calling her, when are you going to put the house up for sale? And she's got this house, and she owns her own business, and she's got kids and shit, and she's like, it's overwhelming to her.
Yeah.
It just was overwhelming.
Yep.
Right? Or how about this one? Divorce. One person's in charge of selling the house, or you can't get an agreement between one another how you're going to sell the house, and you can't settle your divorce because of the house, right? Here's another one. You lose your job, and you're behind 1 or 2 payments, and you don't know what to do. Here's another one. I talked to a guy the other day, and he's got 3 houses, and all 3 houses have tax problems, like $15,000, $20,000 tax problems. He inherited the houses with these tax problems. And doesn't have the money to fix it. Here's another one. get a job transfer. I did a deal one time with a guy that was going to Canada, and he was making $120,000 or $130,000 here, and going to Canada to make $280,000.
Yeah.
What's he do with the house? Okay, so these are overwhelming problems.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about test the customer or test the seller on what's agreeable with them, it depends on how they. Oh, I didn't finish that. So here's what you had the aha moment about yesterday. Let me finish that. What I tend to see is that realtors sell houses for people that think they have an asset, and they want their asset cashed in. They want their money. They want their profit, right?
Yeah.
What realtors have trouble with is the other guy that's on a job transfer needs to go in 30 days. The realtor can't move fast enough or do the things that are specific to help him with that overwhelming problem. And ironically enough, and I hate to say this, but it is true, most realtors aren't skilled enough to help him with that problem. They're skilled at selling houses, but not helping him with that problem.
Well, how can they guarantee they'll find a buyer, sell it within 30 days and close?
Right.
That's
So
not
my
easy.
philosophy is, my purpose in life is to help as many people as I can buy a house and or sell a house to better their life. And that says it all right there. So when I go into a house, I don't think, oh, I'm going in to buy it. I'm going in to think, I wonder how I'm going to consult this person. I wonder how I'm going to help them with their overwhelming problem. And if you do that enough times, in my case, 5 or 6 times, you buy a house.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to go in and sit down with somebody and consult them on their overwhelming problems of the house. And then some of them I buy, some of them not. This guy was thinking about with the 3 houses, I consulted him for an hour and 20 minutes, and we got all done. He's like, I'm gonna talk to my sister about this. He says, and I think you should come see us. He says, because maybe you can buy one of the houses. Right? He's got a $70,000 house with a $17,000 lien, and I told him, well, you could sell it to somebody like me. I'll give you $5,000, $4, $5, $6,000, and walk away. We'll take care of the $17,000, and you're done. I would do that. So he's got he says an $80,000 house. I think it's $130,000.
Yep.
And he's willing to just to get the plate off get it off his plate. So I pay $17,000 to the taxes, give him $5,000. How much is 17 plus 5?
22.
On a $100,000 house, would you do that deal? Would you find $22,000?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. By the way, we're closing. You and I are closing on a deal and going to put money back into a credit line. Why not reemploy that money? There you go. So that's how it happens. Right? So is that clear?
Sure.
Spend way too much time on that. But so the test, you have to test the seller for what they're agreeable with. Right? So it's either, can you take your equity and payments, or would you take, if I give it you money now, you got to give me deep discounts, because here's the thing. We're going to go to the next step.
Yeah.
Okay? Now that I have done that step, like figured out how they're willing to take their equity, or if they have an overwhelming problem, how we're going to solve the problem. Okay. Now that we've done that, the next step is I have more information, right? See what I'm saying? I went up to step 2 now, going up the staircase.
Yeah.
Right? I go up to step 2. So
But that helps you do the next steps.
Right.
And
that's my point.
The point is, when you really do one step well, you can kind of sort out
You'll
how
know
the
that
next
it's time to move on.
Yeah, and because you can't know that yet. So if you think about it, all you can do is worry. Don't bother.
Right. So now what I do is I Google the address. I use PropStream, so I go there before I go to Google. But you Google the address and you poke around and see if the numbers the seller gave you are at least in the right ballpark, or if they're outrageous. You'll just check it. Right. See, the correct conclusion to each step is it tells me or makes me feel I should, like we just said, put a little bit more time in. So each step closes me on, yeah, I want to spend more time on this.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a bloodhound on my time. Right. So it's like, I don't want to be inefficient with my time or waste time working on a deal that isn't going to have a good result. Right. So if I decide at this step that I want to put more time, energy, and resources or potential resources into this deal, it's got to prove to me that it's worth that. Right? So if I'm not feeling it, see ya.
Yeah.
I drop it like a potato. Okay? Then I move on to the next step. If I think the seller's plan can match my potential plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'll take monthly payments. You don't know what they are or how long, but they're like, Matt, the plans are matching, right? Or yes, I'll take a significant discount. Okay, our plans are matching, right? I'll want to go out and inspect the house, right? And make sure it fits into one of my potential strategies, right? Now, if the seller misled me and did not properly describe the house, I change my strategy while I'm in the house. See, I haven't told the seller my plan yet, right? So if I change it, they won't know, right? It's totally safe.
So you're still gathering.
Yeah.
Still gathering a lot of information.
Right.
And it might be tempting to start spitting offers to see if you can catch the fish, but don't pull it in yet.
So let's be crude and be a couple guys for a second. This is no different than going out on a date with a girl. You don't know what's going to happen at the end of the night. Are you staying or are you leaving?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's kind of like that. You don't know what's on her mind until it's time. And she may, in the beginning, say, no way, I'm not sleeping with him tonight. And then have dinner, and all of a sudden something strikes her, and it's like she'll make that decision at dinner time and not tell you. And then next thing you know, you're staying the night. Right? I mean, it's a crude way to put it, but it's exactly the way it goes.
There's an amount of patience you need to have. No matter what you think or want, you have to play the scene you're in.
Circumstances will arise to make you say, oh, I'm not doing that. You know, like I've been in houses literally with some psychotic women or psychotic men, and like, this is a great deal, but I'm not dealing with that freak for 5 years. And I walk in, and I don't remember the deal, but I remember you and I went through that one time. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. I think it was the guy in Newington that had the lake in the back.
Yeah.
The freaky guy. I'm like,
the story kept changing, and
after 2 or 3 times talking to him, I'm like, Pete, even if this guy like gave me this house for $1, I'm out because I don't want to deal with that freak.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it wasn't good.
All right. So the next thing I do, so now what I've done is I've kind of matched the plan with the seller and with me, and I kind of have a feel for where he's going, right? And if I get in the house, I go out to the house, and if I get in the house and they misled me, right, then I just adjust my strategy. I go from, well, I guess I can't lease option this house, or I can't sell it as a slot deal, so I have to go into the Mayo formula. It's an ugly house. I got to renovate it.
Right.
Right? And I start thinking about that strategy when I'm in a house. But nobody knows that until I get in the house, so I'm not going to disappoint anybody by going out there.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is another lesson. If you're doing due diligence, don't talk quickly. Premature talking could hurt you. Which happens to my coaching clients, don't tell them what you can do until you're sure you can do it. Don't give them a seminar on the telephone. Don't give them a seminar in the house until it's time.
Right? So you keep it kind of loose in general?
Yeah, you're gathering information.
I mean, as far as just, you have to tell them something, or...
Why?
Well, you have to say at least you're interested, or... what
I'm willing to come out and look at your house and make you an offer. What does the seller want?
An offer.
He doesn't want to sell the house. He wants to compare. In fact, I was gonna put this in an email. I actually had a seller. We were doing an internship last night. I've been doing this internship, right, where I'm teaching people how to find buyers, and it's been a month long, and it's 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
And so last night we're finishing up. So in front of my group, I had Emma pull 15 houses for me, right, and I uploaded them into our software, which I showed everybody how to get and use, and I started texting people, right, and one guy actually put, do you want to talk to me, or do you want me to send you the offer? And he's like, until I see it, I don't want to do anything.
Oh. Kind
of thing. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, he wanted my number. All he wants is my number, so he's pre-qualifying me. So he's got 150. He's got a house he's selling for 159.9, right? That's comped for 141, right? Because that started off, will you sell your house? Will you sell your house in a lease option? No. I want all cash. And then I sent him back a text, said, will you take a discount? And he said yes.
Okay.
So like something that slight could strike up a conversation.
Sure.
So I go on Zillow and I look at it, and he's got it listed for $159.9. Well, yeah, he's going to have to take a $20,000 discount. That's why I haven't sold it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my point.
I got it.
Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, so we're going to that's matching our plans to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now I feel like I'm more prepared to talk turkey. Right. And with the seller and see what I can do. So I'm very good at scenarios. You know, you hear me talk about this. Like I'll mock up like a picture. Like, what if?
Yeah. Or
suppose I were to, or you ever think this might happen? You know, you hear me say that to people. Like, what if? You know, like let me give you an example. This is not your numbers, and I'll use their numbers. Like, what if I were to give you 110, and then you did this and I did that, and I like paint the picture. You've heard me do this, right? And it's like, then I come back to it again later, right? So I'm like feeling them out. But now at this point, I'm ready to do that because I've gotten enough due diligence.
Right. And you got a lot of feedback from them by then too, before you put your foot forward.
That's right.
It's funny when you're saying that. I've heard you do that, but I never really realized you're doing it that much on purpose. I thought that's, no. I mean, I might do that just by accident, like what if, you know, but you're really doing that on purpose to paint the picture. You're not just talking, because I'm thinking you're just talking, because you are, but you're specifically painting the picture so they can. Because
I know I'm dealing with pictures. What's going to make the decision? An understood picture. People that don't understand things say no.
Well, they have to envision it.
So I have this picture, and it's missing the face. I have to put the face there for them to envision it, to actually say, oh, I'll do that.
Yeah.
They have to actually see themselves going through the process.
It's way past just the number, isn't it, though? Yeah. Well, I'll give you this much.
On pretty houses.
Yeah.
On ugly houses, it's just about the number.
Yeah, but I've seen you still in that case, like just the number, but it still allows them to do something the way you arrange it, whether they're getting paid right now or in 6 months. I mean, there's different things you can still do there, but you still have an appreciation of what they're trying to do.
Right.
Like one of the houses we did, we gave her cash when we sold the house.
Right.
We're going to get a little more for funding the house, and not having to borrow money by us from somebody else. And you explain that to her. She goes, okay, because she wasn't living there anyways.
Right.
You want more, a little more later? Sure.
Yeah.
But you took that into consideration, even just the cash. It wasn't just the number. It was like, well, we'll give you a little more, and you wait a little bit, and we'll take care of everything. All of that was in there. It was just beautiful. And she was so happy.
Right. She wrote us a 1.5-page testimonial. All right. So now I feel like I want to start talking turkey. I don't just talk turkey. I have a sequence and I have a plan before I get there. Here's the plan. First, I want to start talking about negotiating the price.
Yep.
I do not move on until that's completed.
Oh, hell no.
I want to know what their price is. Yeah. And it's usually their lowest price, but I don't even care about that, because if I'm doing a slot deal, I don't even care about that.
Yeah.
I just want to know what's gonna invite. So we're on the date and the end of the night, and what's gonna get me invited in to spend the night? What is gonna like get that tingling going on? You know what I mean? And I'm being rude, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but it's so apropos. It's such a perfect way to explain it. And I should probably talk about baking cakes or something, but we're guys, and
we'll make a dessert scenario next time.
We expect from a fat guy that smokes cigars all the time. All right, so I'm gonna negotiate price first.
Sure.
Once I get that done and I feel confident, I'm gonna move on to
payments.
Yeah, they're payments. So I'm going to want to negotiate the monthly payments. Now, here's an interesting thing. All right. So I'm going to just read what I wrote here, because that's where I'm. So once I have their final number for the price, I work on negotiating the monthly payments, unless it's an ugly house. Okay. I have a huge discount. Okay, I stop right there. I don't have to do any more with that seller.
No.
But pay attention to this. This is important, because you're not going to, most people don't think this. I still have to do the step. Once I get the price, I'm done, right? With the seller.
Yeah.
All right. My payments get worked out with my hard money guy or my private money guy. It still gets worked out. It's just not with the seller.
Yeah, that's true.
And my terms, which is the next step, gets worked out with the
lender.
private money, and the disc and the deposit gets worked out with the. You're still doing the steps.
That's
you're
funny.
just not doing them with the seller.
Right, because there's still time involved on a renovation, or at least it doesn't happen that week. It's a few months.
Still the steps.
So there's that time that you have to pay for something. And the
So if you have an ugly house, you would discuss the price, write a purchase and sales contract, done.
Yeah.
Then you do the rest of the steps with how you're going to get the money.
Yeah.
So you're going to go to your private lender, your hard money lender, your uncle, your aunt, wherever, and you're going to work that out.
Yep. You're going to work out the
If
best
it's a
payments.
pretty house, you're asking the seller to give you payments, so you stay there and negotiate with the seller.
Yeah.
On how much of the payments. Which, by the way, let's negotiate payments. I'm gonna teach people how to negotiate for payments right now.
Okay. This is very complicated. Pay attention.
Peter,
Yes.
how much do you pay? How much does it cost you each month for your mortgage, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and any other payments you have? How much is it total?
$1,522.
Okay, good. That's what I'm going to pay you every month. Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's it. Okay, that's how you negotiate payments.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they're asking for a profit, there's a couple other ways that you can get around that, but most people don't. They'll just take the payments, right? And of course, the number one thing that comes up is, well, what about the taxes? If they go up, well, I'll pay them. What if I have a variable interest? Well, I'll pay that too. You know, and you obviously do your due diligence at that point on what is the variable interest and what are the taxes and how much did they go up the last time.
Right.
That's it. You don't have to go further than that.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, if the taxes go up in this house, what other house did the taxes go up on too?
All of them.
Okay, so if they're going up on mine and everybody else's, is it feasible that if I go up $200 a month on the price and on the rental or the rental fee, do you think that's going up on all the other houses in the neighborhood too?
Sure.
So there you go.
So everything stays commensurate, so you're safe.
All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, once I have number one, the price, and number two, the payment settled, I'm going to work on the term, or how much time do I have to make these payments? To either the seller or to the private lending guy or the hard money guy.
Yep.
Right? And this is important. This is very important. On an ugly house, it doesn't matter. Okay? Now, on an ugly house, I borrow my money without payments.
But monthly payments.
I don't do that. My
Right.
private lender allows me to pay everything one lump sum. So I take the money, and 3, 4, 6, 8 months later, I give him all his interest and I give him everything in one lump sum when my buyer gives it to me, which makes me talk about when I'm doing payments, I have to make sure I can get this money from my buyer.
Right.
Whether that be a sale that has enough profit in it to pay for these payments and this expense, because a lot of people don't take in consideration on ugly houses the cost to hold, because that chews you up. That'll eat up a profit. I've seen coaching clients have a $15,000 and $20,000 deal and put money in because they held it too long.
Yeah.
They gotta go to the closing with money, $2,000 or $3,000 worth of money, because they held it too long. We did that with the Newington house. How much did that cost? That cost us like $20,000 to hold that house for a year.
Oh, the whole.
We didn't put money
Which
in,
one?
but it cost the
Manchester?
No.
Oh.
The house in Newington that we did the subject to deal on. It cost us like $20,000
Oh,
because
in
of the
payments.
contractors.
Yeah.
Well, not just in payments, but just interest, because they weren't payments. It was everything.
There was a mortgage plus
It was $1,000 a month. You know, so you hold it for an extra year. That's $12,000 right there, right? That you're not going to get back. Okay, so all I'm saying is that when you're setting up your payments and everything, it's money, money now, money monthly, money later, right? So you're comparing it to what's my exit strategy and how am I going to get this money back?
Right.
Okay, so when you're setting up payments, you have to make sure that the payments are sufficient to rent by. Like if before I was talking about $200,000 house and you're paying $2,800 a month, who's going to give you $3,200 a month?
Yeah.
you're not going to get it.
Nope.
Okay. So that's your due diligence. You don't need an EL education for that. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Right. Then once I do that, the last thing I do is, and only if the seller brings it up first, I talk about deposit money.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't bring it up, I don't talk about it. We don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have to get a deposit. If they have a problem with the house, they're happy to not have that payment every month,
Right.
the pain, and all that stuff.
Now I want you to get something here, okay? And then we're gonna start landing the airplane here, because we're gonna come down to a close pretty soon. So I want you to understand something here. All right, never mind. I'm gonna wait. I'm almost there. I'm gonna wait. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide into home base, right? Because it's all starting to come together, right?
Yeah.
And I start to see a clearer and clearer picture of what my final offer can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the due diligence has been happening all along, right? Without any major decision. We haven't made a decision yet. We haven't said to the seller, I can do this. Mm-hmm. I asked him what he's willing to take. Mm-hmm. I asked him how much his payments are. I asked him how long he's willing to go, but I haven't said to him, I'll do that, which is where my coaching clients make a mistake, because when they're doing these 4 steps, they're committing to, okay, I'll pay you $129.
So how do you word it?
I don't. I just ask them what they're willing to do.
Mm.
And I'll be like, I haven't decided what I want to do yet. I need to know what you're willing to do. And I need to know what they're willing to do on the payments. I mean, on the price, on the payments, and the term. Because what do you know about me? So I want $130 for the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So is that the low you'll do? And I'll go, is that the best you can do? Blah, 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 blah. I'll do all that kind of stuff. So $130 is the number. Okay, mm-hmm. Let's say it's worth $180.
Okay.
So I'm sufficient,
mm-hmm.
right? I get their payment. Their payment's $1,100 a month. Okay. But then all of a sudden they get stuck on, well, I'm only going to do a year for a term.
Yeah.
Now, what did that just do to my price and my payment? It threw it out the window. I got to go back. So what I'll say is, okay, well, if you want only 1 year for payments, mm-hmm. I can't pay you $130. I have to pay you $90,000.
Yeah.
Because it just changed the deal for me, because now I got to switch it from him financing to me to going to my private lender.
Mm-hmm.
See what just happened?
Sure.
So so I'm not going to commit to, yes, I'll pay you $130, because I'm still doing my due diligence.
Yeah. And I've seen your numbers change like that.
Yeah.
I see you get to the very end, something else comes up, and it just changes again. So the point is, never make up your mind till it's all over. Don't decide yet.
So decide when you're dropping her off at the steps, and whether she kisses you and invites you in, that's when you decide, are you going in?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's a crude way, but it's really that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you're still courting her, right?
Yeah.
Or you're still courting the seller at this point. So at this point, you're starting to slide into home base. The due diligence has been happening all along without any major decision making that locks you in. Okay? Now, see it unfolds when doing it by following my little formula, which is just do it and learn. You're learning mm-hmm. out loud. Mm-hmm. The seller is teaching you. You're learning out loud by speaking about it, by talking about it. You're learning, mm-hmm. right? And my little formula of pay attention and focus on the next step, which we've done all along here. We keep focusing just on the next step, right?
Yeah.
And if you jumped ahead and did this step first, which is sliding into home base and giving an offer, which most of my coaching clients do, and I have to correct that because that's what kills deals, is they're trying to give them a seminar or an offer on the phone without even looking at the house.
Yeah.
Which you can do that, but there's a certain time and place to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you jump ahead and you do this step first before all the other steps, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot, and you'd be giving a guy like me the deal. Because they'd have a bad experience with you, and they'd be like, oh, that guy want to give me $90,000. Oh, okay. And I'll bet you any amount of money. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I had a coaching client one time telling me about how they couldn't buy a house because the seller kept saying, I had this other house, and there's no way I'm going to take $77,000. No way I'm going to take that money. No way. It was a different house. It wasn't this house.
Yeah, but you had a bad experience.
And I kept telling my coaching client, look, and finally, in the end of the time, it was we've interviewed her here. It was Randy.
Yeah, I remember.
Right, and finally, I think she bought that house for like $72,000 or $74,000.
Yeah.
And I point blank said to her, Randy, either you tell her you shut up and don't let your feelings come through. You point blank say to her, the best I could do is $72,000, and then shut up and stand there. If you don't do it, I'm going to go buy this house out from underneath you. And that's how I got her to do it.
I remember you doing that.
Right? And guess what she bought the house for? I think like $74,000.
Yeah.
And she made something like $80,000 off the house.
Yep.
But it was because she felt the lady wouldn't take it. No, it doesn't matter. You give the numbers, let them decide. You do not make the decision for your seller.
No, there's enough no's in the world. Why give yourself your own no's? Just don't do it.
Now that my deal, or now that my offer potentials are nice and clear in my head, because I've gone through this due diligence process, they're nice and clear in my head, right? I can now present them to the seller cleanly. One at a time. I don't mix them. So I'm willing to do a rent to own. I'll pay you $1,300 a month. I'll pay you, $130,000 with an option when I get my buyer to get a mortgage and pay it off. And I'll give you $1,300 a month for the next 2 years. That's a clean offer.
Yeah.
Right?
And you don't do that all at once. That's at the end. The other stuff you could have said that
right now. Because
you could have said that in the beginning, but that would be so wrong. That's
like going from the bottom step to the top step.
Well, it's three different things for the person to decide on. Right. Just do one until that's done, and the person has it out of their head. Just be patient.
At this point, I'm reiterating their decisions and saying, and I'm going to summarize it.
Yeah.
Because we picked a price, we picked a payment, we picked a term. Now I'm going to summarize it and make sure that they understand what's going to happen next. Right? So at this point, I can start putting it in writing because it's nice and clear. So either I'm going to do that with contracts and try to close, or I'm going to do that with a letter of intent. Like if they have legal counsel, I'll write a letter of intent, or if they have a partner or a husband or somebody else that's not there, couldn't be there, then I'll put it in a letter of intent. Because I want my exact words to shatter through their concerns and their considerations, like what you just said. I want it to be in writing, and I want it to pass along so it is fully duplicated the way I want it to be. And nobody, it's like playing telephone tag around when you were in school.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want any variations or something like that.
So if you're talking to just one person who makes the decision, you don't bother with the letter of intent? You just go
If
straight?
I know I can go to contract, absolutely. If they're ready, I'll just go right to contract.
Yeah, I never thought of that because I never made a difference in that. But totally, if there's other people, the letter of intent.
Well, sometimes they might want to be, I want to run it by my lawyer. So I'll either draft, sometimes I'll draft the documents and send them to the lawyer.
Yeah.
My point is that at this point, you're going to do one or the other.
Got it.
Okay. By this time, so now we've done that. We've got it. We can clearly put it in writing. By this time, I'm completely confident I can push forward in the deal. Right? In fact, I should be excited almost like it was my first date. Okay? Now, heed this thought. If you take possession of the house with the deed, you make sure you get a deep discount and plenty of equity, so there's plenty of exit strategies. If you take the house with a deed, this is where people get in trouble, is they take a deed to the house in one economic environment and then try to get rid of the deed in another economic environment.
Like time after time?
Right. So it could be you buy the house, like right now, most of the United States is in its up market. It's in a bubble. Right? So let's say 2020, it's that way. You take a deed of the house in 2020 when it all worked, all the numbers worked, and then all of a sudden, let's just say, not being political, but the Democrats get in and they change all the policy that Trump had, and they lower or the economy goes down. Now all of a sudden the house now it's a whole different economic economy, and you're stuck holding $20,000 loss.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Holding the deed is the most dangerous thing you can do for a property. Right? So if you're not sure or you're nervous, don't get the deed. Right? Now, the last thing where we're going to end off is, how do you not lose money in real estate? What's the surefire way of not losing money in real estate?
I know.
Tell me.
Don't put money into it?
Don't put any money in, right? So if you don't want to lose money in real estate, don't put any money in. So if you do lease options, you're not putting money in. You're controlling the property. You don't have the deed in your name. Now, if you put money in, you have to get a deed to protect your money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're screwed. Literally. Right? So you don't have to worry about markets, environments, anything. Lease options is a absolute, total, recession-proof way of buying real estate. It doesn't matter if it's a good economy, bad economy. There are always houses that need to be rented and aren't for rent. Right? So if you do rent-to-owns or lease options, which is, by the way, I do my specialty is slot deals, sandwich lease option transfer. Lease options, which is where you get 15% equity and 25% cash flow and you stay in the deal, or I do subject to deals. Right? Those are my first. I mean, I do the other deals and I do many of the other deals, but those are my favorite, and that's what I like to specialize on. Okay, so I think at this point, although we went a little bit longer than normal, I think that you can rest assured that doing due diligence the way that I've just described to you is a lot better than doing it the way you've never been taught. You can make those decisions as you go along, and you can get out at any time, or you can have them warm and fuzzies in your stomach and keep going. Right? If you're doing this process on a house and you have any questions, you can definitely send me a support ticket at flippinghousesforrookies.com. Upper right-hand corner is contact us. Those go right to me. The other thing is that I keep talking about, if once you get a motivated seller. So I just want to let the listeners know that at Christmas time, which was a couple months ago, or a month ago at this point, at my live meetup, I didn't really broadcast it on the podcast because I took 15 people, a selected 15, and it ended up being 18, but I took a selected 18 people and I put them in an internship. So what I did is I showed them I have some new ways of doing deal hunting and how to make deals and how to find lease options and how to find slot deals specifically. And I did on Monday, we did it for 4 weeks. On Monday night, I showed the basic idea of what we're going to cover for the week. On Wednesday night, I actually did it for them in front of them. And on Friday night, they did it for me. So I knew by the time we ended off on Friday night, they knew how to do it. Emma did an amazing job of making workbooks for us that are step-by-step workbooks. So on Wednesday night, I would just go through the workbook, the step-by-step workbook, and actually do the steps. And it's all done with a screen share. We used Zoom to do it. And we just went through exactly step by step how to do it. And then on Friday night, I put people in breakout rooms and they worked with one another. And if somebody had a question or didn't know how to do it, they got through it. We did this for 4 weeks. And at the end, actually by week 2, between week 2 and week 3, people were going ahead because we would put the workbooks we used a Slack group to communicate with one another. So there was a lot of support, right? And, I had put the workbooks in on Monday on Slack, and some of the advanced guys would go through the workbook. So by the time they got to the end of the week, they actually had deals. So a couple of calls, I had to actually call a couple guys and help them with their deals. Okay. It was phenomenal. I know there were several times where guys told me that if they had bought this as a course and listened to it at home, they would have got stuck at this. And most of the time, it's a very minute point.
It doesn't take much.
And they would get stuck and not be able to ask questions. And at that point, they would have just stopped studying the course. But because we had so much support there, we had the Slack group and other guys were helping them, and I was helping them. They had a lot of support. And because we did the 3 calls, we did 12 calls, they completely utterly know how to do it to a point where they can actually hire virtual assistants to do what we're doing, and all the training I gave to them, because they got all the videos and all the documents and all the stuff all downloaded to them, and they can actually use virtual assistants to actually train their virtual assistants and get somebody else to do the calls. Or one girl's going to use her daughter, another guy's going to use his brother, you know, people that are able to do it, and they're going to use this training to train those people. Okay, so that is something that we will do again. If you're interested in that, you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/internship. So flippinghousesforrookies.com/internship. We had a problem with our website. For some reason, that web page got like damaged or something. So if you go there and there's just a box there, just put your name and contact information. As soon as we get the page fixed and we know what the dates are, we'll email you and let you know what's going on. But if you're interested in that, it was, I mean, Peter, it was pretty awesome.
No, Mary, my wife, has been doing it, and I'm working at that time, but when I have breaks, I run in and sit there, and then I go back, and so how's it going? Like, it's fine. You know how to do it? Yeah. You sure how to do it? Yeah, it's fine.
I broke it down to the most minute steps.
So I just got to do it, okay?
And the success stories I'm getting are just raving success stories. I mean, I've changed these people's lives.
You understand? I got my wife to do it. Just go with that, because there's a lot that you can do that doesn't take being a salesman and being a hard nose and being all this aggressive and this super person. Like, you can just go through the steps, do the steps, and it kind of unfolds in front of you. And then I'll do my part when she does her part. So we'll work together on that. But what you did is took real estate and make it understood and usable. I mean, there's so much stuff that people buy. You know, I'm an educator. You know plenty about education. You have to do it that way. I'm a music teacher. I don't just sit there and talk about music. The damn students got to play the song.
Well, the thing that I do is I practice what I preach. I made them do it.
Yes.
So the only way they're going to learn is by doing it.
Well, how do you know if you got it right if you don't?
But I was there to help them with the Zoom screens. We were there and looked over their shoulders and make sure they were doing it right. And when they ran into problems, we were able to help them.
I mean, I
got a couple guys that are older guys in there, and they had trouble with Excel and stuff like that. And we stayed an extra half hour and we helped them do it. Yeah. Just to make sure nobody was left behind. It was amazing. It's
just this just doesn't get done kind of anywhere. Even in school, it doesn't happen. Right. So just to do this in real estate is like a diamond. It's just rare.
Well, I'm definitely an innovator. There's nobody else doing it this way.
Definitely. I mean, you roll up your sleeves and make sure people can do it.
Yep. So it's flippinghousesforrookies.com/internship. The last thing is I haven't been asking for reviews, and so they've kind of fallen off. So I need reviews. If you, I think we give away way too much information. Like what we did today is actually, I could have charged for this and made it a web class. You know, but you're getting it for free. So please get your exchange in with me and go give me a review. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/podcast, or just go to the page and click on the podcast on the top, there's a link there for iTunes. That's where I look at them. If you're giving me reviews from another podcast platform, send me a support ticket so I can go read it, because I don't know what's there. I only check iTunes. Yeah. Okay. Because that's what I know. Right. So please give us reviews, because that's what we feed off of. That's our feedback. You know, we're just doing this outflow, and we have no idea what you guys think. So if you have suggestions of podcasts that you want to like have us talk about topics, send a support ticket in. We're here for you. I mean, I just make up these topics based on, my coaching clients and students that we talk to live and all that kind of stuff. So, but if there's a specific topic you feel like you need help with, then we'll do that. It's fine. Every week we need topics. So,
especially if you're stuck on something, right? If you're stuck in the process someplace, you're moving along, you're studying this, you're buying these books, you take a course here or there, you go to RIAs, whatever you're doing, and you get stuck at something, send Bill a support ticket.
Yeah, and we'll help you. Okay, now, I may not hold your hand like a coaching client, but I will definitely get you pointed in the right direction. Minimum, we do a podcast on it. Yeah. If it's a topic that's worth talking about, Yeah. I mean, I don't want to have somebody send us a support ticket like, I don't know how to use Excel. I'm not doing that. It's got to be real estate related.
Well, let's answer that. Find somebody who does, and actually find somebody who knows how to do it, and have them help you.
Right.
Now, I can't tell you how many things that I've been helping my life to do because I just asked a certain person, anything and everything. Yep. I have a network of friends and professionals or just friends, and just ask them for help. Help each other.
Totally. All right, we're over now. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.